we're glad to begin this new roundtable with Cécile and Hutelan. I'm Simon Wellman. I'm General Manager of Le Lab Quantique, which is both an incubator and also a think tank in France. Cécile, do you want to present yourself?
Sure. So I'm Cécile Perrault, Head of Innovation and Partnerships at Alice & Bob. So you heard extensively about Alice & Bob. Jérémy presented well our technology. We are a strong believer in animating and contributing to the ecosystem. That's why I was also able to run and win the election on Vice President for QUIC. QUIC is the industrial consortium of the European players in quantum technology. We represent almost 200 industrial and academic partners that are developing quantum technologies. Our role is to interact with the European Commission, but also the national strategies in order to provide an insight in the cases of the challenges and opportunities for the industrial community. We also interact with our equivalent over in the US called QEDC and the ones over in Japan called QSTAR. Together, it allows us to have a general understanding of the geopolitical view of quantum technology throughout the world.
And Hutelan, could you present yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, Simon. Merci beaucoup, or how you say it. So, my name is Peppina Huhtala, and I'm from the Confederation of Finnish Industries, EK. Back in Finland, we represent around 20,000 member companies from all industry sectors, technology industry included, obviously. And we have member companies like quantum startup IQM, Blueforce, and also companies like AMD, Silo AI, Nokia, and so on. And I would also like to mention that we in Finland established to make our first national quantum strategy at the beginning of this year. The work was led by our Ministry of Employment and Economics, so this is a very timely topic for us too. And also in the light of EU initiatives like EU Quantum Strategy and Quantum Act. So I'm very happy to be here today and discuss this important topic with you.
So, as you see, we have two very complementary speakers, I would say. And I would like to begin with a very general question about how you see, what is your vision of the European quantum system, and more specifically, which types of key stakeholders you see are lacking here in Europe?
Yeah, so on the good side, we have to acknowledge that the European ecosystem is very dynamic, and we have a number of players, and we keep on seeing new players coming into the game. So that's a very good thing. But we still have to acknowledge that there are some missing points. If we look at the technological development, what we're missing, and we just heard from, for example, EDF, who have contributed in pushing forward quantum algorithm applied for their business model, we need more industries mapping the algorithms that are going to make a massive impact on their business plan and to map the technical feasibility of those algorithms. Not all algorithms will touch every industrial partners, and so we need to understand which algorithm will touch who and at what timeline, because some of them will require big computers, some of them will require smaller ones, and so we need to have an understanding of the timeline of each of those algorithms. We also need more investors willing to support the scale-ups. So Alice & Bob, we've been very fortunate to raise 100 million euros at the beginning of the year, but the next step is not the most obvious one to stay in Europe, because we need more possibilities of fundraising massive amounts in Europe, and that's not the kind of things we've been seeing in Europe, so we need more of those investors. And I want to end with, I congratulate Finland on their strategy recently. That's a really good news. But Europe is 27 countries, and if we look, only around 10 of them have quantum strategies. And so we need everyone in Europe to see their role in the quantum strategy so that together we can make sure that it happens.
So yes, so Finland has one of the strongest quantum ecosystems in EU, but also we, like everybody else, lack the large industry end users. And like my colleague here just mentioned, the key question is how EU can stay competitive when quantum advantage has not yet been demonstrated. But we are currently in so-called valley of death for funding, where the hype alone cannot longer carry the momentum, but the markets aren't fully ready either. And we don't want to end up in the same situation Europe is with AI a few years ago.
Maybe one question to you, Cécile. So because of your position and role, you have a very specific point of view, I would say, on the ecosystem. And you know, let's say we have a very fierce competition here in the world. I would say we saw that IonQ and Oxford Ionics just merged. So how do you see how critical you could say that the collaboration between Alice and Bob, which is of course a French startup, and Qblox, the Dutch startup, is critical?
Yes, so it's not super surprising that we're seeing the beginning of numbers of M&A, because we kind of expected the ecosystem has reached a level where we're going to see coalitions of big companies. We interact with and we have a project with Qblox who develops the signals that, if you remember what Jeremy presented earlier, they generate the machines that prepares the signal that we send on our qubits. Qblox has been making massive progress. They've grown very rapidly recently, and they've been developing excellent technology. So we're very happy to be able to benchmark their technology and to see how easy it would be to integrate in our system. What we see also in the cases of our qubits, which are the superconducting qubits, the same ones that IBM and Google develops and Amazon, we have the entire supply chain present in Europe. This is really a luxury that we don't have with AI. AI, we're fully dependent on the US, but to make the superconducting qubits, we actually have everything over in Europe. So that gives us a very, very big advantage in order to push this technology, because we know we can make it. And then what we have also is that we have very good support from the entities. We see the coordination at the European level happening. What we need to do is to make sure that this push is continuing. The strategy, the quantum strategy that's being prepared in Europe and that will be announced at the beginning of July is a very good point to help everyone that has a strategy to coordinate, so that we don't repeat from one country to the next. And for example, Netherlands has very good enabling technologies. In France, we've got very good qubit developers. Finland obviously has Bluefors for superconducting, which is a key component. So if we can coordinate all together, we have the kind of amount we see over in the US and in China. We have the talent, we have the ambition, so we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do you want to?
Yeah, I would like to continue about this quantum and AI comparison, because this year Stanford University released AI Index, which announced that for the world's most major GPAI models, 40 was developed in US, 15 in China, and only 3 in Europe, and all from one country alone, France, and from one company alone, Mistral. So we don't want to see the same happening in the sector of quantum. And because we have so many European advantages, so the right time to make some actions is now.
Maybe, yes, one question for you, Hudala. So you're senior legal advisor, so you have a specific point of view because you know the laws and so on. And we just mentioned before the merge of IonQ and Oxford Ionics. So how would you enable, help startups, so for example, Finnish startups, to prevent some theft of intellectual properties?
Yeah, well, in the sector characterized by very early stage SMEs and startups, and also rapidly evolving processes, the clear IP ownership questions are very important and crucial for securing investment and enabling scaling up. And currently, the main customers in quantum sector are often public computing centers. So even when building European public infrastructure, it is important to have fair IP terms for companies, such as separate agreements between design and process-related IP. And we in the Finnish industry also believed that it may be important to establish a shared IP framework to help public-private collaboration in EU. So maybe something like EU-funded initiatives may help to reduce IP-related barriers in this quantum sector.
Thank you very much. So maybe to conclude this roundtable, I would say that we have actually in Europe a very fragmented, would say, ecosystem, where we see that as we see actually in a geopolitical view, that we have a lot of armies actually in Europe that do exactly the same thing. You know, they build cannons there and exactly the same thing. And in quantum is a bit kind of the same thing, but you at Alice Bob, you see that you can do better and also collaborate with European countries to avoid this. Do you want to say a kind of a conclusion about this?
Yeah, well, I do think that the quantum strategies, the national quantum strategies have identified that we don't want to replicate. And so we need to coordinate. And really, I do think the message is there. I do see Europe, the European Commission, trying to structure the quantum strategy in that role. It's always a challenge because we are 27 countries working together, and we need to make sure everybody finds their role in this strategy. But it's something we've been doing for a while. There is the will. We've got a number of champions, both at the level of the countries and both in the European Commission. So we have right now the right energy and the right direction that's happening. We just need to make sure it happens fast enough, obviously, and that we're able to raise funds to the level that we haven't raised for a very high-risk technology. We know that Europe is not the best in terms of taking risks, of pushing forward high-risk, high-value projects. We all need to work together to accept that innovation is risk, and that in order to be the best in tech, we're going to need to be taking risks.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, well, I would like to continue that what's needed right now is a capital, a patient capital directed to both the hardware development and also to supporting the end industry users.
Thank you very much. Thank you.